So these are the patients who walk into your clinic. Which is the best nourished patient up there? Who would be the anabolic patient up there? 1, 2, or 3? I don't care what the answer is, we just need to go on, so throw out a number. 3, best nourished? Okay, who's the worst nourished? Middle. Oh, it's almost like you guys planned it that way. Those are the completely wrong answers, I love it. Okay, if we take the scoring from the box 1 through 4 of the PG-SGA, and the higher the score, the worse the risk or deficit. So you said patient 2 would be the worst, and patient 3 would be the best. These two people have the same score. Oh, that's pretty weird. And as a clinician, as a doctor, if I didn't have a nutrition background, I'd say, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, she's overweight. It's probably pretty good if she loses some weight during a period of time. I mean, you've all heard that, okay? So let's go through these patients, because clearly just looking at patients doesn't help. So let's look at the scoring that we've talked about before. This man currently weighs 145 pounds, 5 foot 10 inches tall. A month ago he weighed 160. So he gets 3 points. If you were looking on the worksheet, he gets 3 points for that. He's decreased in the last 2 weeks, so he gets 4 points there. He's in his 60s, as many 60-year-old men would say. His intake over the past month is unchanged, but he goes down and says very little of anything. Now the interesting thing is on this side of the PG-SGA, which you're not going to need if you use the PT Global app, but if you do the paperwork one, these, you take the additive for additive in here, additive in here. These are whatever is the highest score. So even if he checked off little solid food, only liquids, very little of anything, you take the highest score. So he gets 4 points there. Now he has no appetite, he just doesn't feel like eating. He has nausea, he has constipation. He basically gets 5 points. And if you have really good eyes, you can see that their score is there. He says he's basically little activity and spends most of his time in a better chair. Now the one thing that's different between the PG-SGA and the ECOG-4 is you can be bedridden because you just had surgery. And the doctor told you not to get out. So what we did is we gave each of these 3 points. So the maximum point score of that box is 3, even though the ECOG-4 for patients chronically would be 4 points. So that's the one difference that's there. Okay, woman, remember, above the waist, mainly nutritional, below the waist combination. Now, what can you tell me about this woman very quickly by looking at it? Probably the people in the front can see a little bit better. Okay, I've told you she's only got 4 points. What on your physical exam might tell you that there's something else going on? She's got a functional ostomy. It's liquid, right side, probably her ileostomy, so it's functional. Somebody once said she's got jewelry on, so that means she's taking care of herself. I would have never noticed that, but sure, that's a good thing. She's got a central line here. Could that be home TPN? Parenteral nutrition? Yes. Okay. Those are all things that might say physiologically she's working, but there's even something more important. They say that diamonds are a woman's best friend. She's got a diamond-shaped injury to her abdomen. It could be a radiation burn, or it could be an abdominal wound that's healing by secondary intent. It wasn't closed up, and it's healing. And this little dark area here is all that's left to heal. Could that person have taken a large abdominal wound and healed it if they weren't anabolic? That's probably the most telling thing right there. But let's go through the assessment, because you're not going to have her get undressed like that in the hallway. So the bottom line is she currently weighs 105 pounds, 5 foot 4 inches, 100 pounds a month ago. Her weight has increased, so she gets 0 points in that first one. Food intake, it's unchanged, but she's only taking 2 feedings or nutrition by day. Now some people say, why would that be 0 points? She's on TPN, she's got enteral, that's a risk factor. No. If you're treating her and giving her all her requirements, it's been addressed. So you don't need to give her points for that. She has no appetite. We'll say this is in the old days when she was on non-cycled home TPN. If you're on 24 hours a day, you have no appetite. So that was the only symptom she had. Not my normal self, but able to be up and about with fairly normal activity. I had a patient who actually, that would be looking good for her. When I first met her, she was in her late 20s, early 30s, and she was 5 foot 4 inches tall and 65 pounds after being on home TPN by somebody who didn't know how to do it. The reality, she lived another 10 years. We got her up to about 105 pounds, couldn't get her up any more than that, but she was running a household, she was raising 3 kids, so she clearly would have been here. Until I got her finally to agree to physical therapy, where she put on 10 pounds in 1 month because she was doing resistance exercise, etc. She had all the substrate, but she didn't have the anabolic component. So literally, you can see how that patient has a really small score. So the first guy maybe started here and was going down. She started here, went down, but now is going up. And that's really where we want them to go. Question?
She only filled out the chart about 1 month ago, but maybe her weight 6 months ago was very much higher.
Oh, absolutely. But remember what we said is if we did 6 months and 1 month, we always use the 1 month data.
Okay. Oh.
No, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want you to do is ask questions. Because what happens is, again, if she was up here, and maybe she lost, the first time she ever seen, maybe this was the person who was 65 pounds. The reality is, even if she had been 200 pounds, but then you stopped it and she's now going back up. That's really what's happening, is the physiology of the patient. But your point is very well taken, and I appreciate you doing that. Okay, this person, most people would say she has plenty of reserve. She has reserve if she goes to the North Pole and she's not going to get cold. We don't have reserve of protein. Every protein in our body is doing something. So would I be able to do, other than the kind of thing where I almost pulled you off the seat over here, if I'd done that physical component, would I ever be able to see her muscle mass? Probably not. Okay? So this woman has lost almost 20% of her weight in the last 6 months. And so she gets 3 points for that. It's further decreased. She gets 4 points there. Now, in her case, she says normal food, but less than normal amount. So she gets 1 point there. Now, we'll say she's like the GYN oncology patient who has cisplatinum, and so things taste metallic. Does the food taste metallic? No. The fork tastes metallic. Tell them not to eat with a spoon and fork. A lot of that metallic goes away. But the bottom line is she has several symptoms, and it gets 9 points there. She has 2 points because she's not feeling like she's having lost. What if she hadn't lost weight here and she was eating normal and her functional status was okay, but she still had the 9 or 10 points here? She may be doing fine now, but if we don't address those symptoms, she's going to be a B or a C down the road. So this allows us to screen for the things that may be important.